Drink it in, man.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Kool-Aid, what's going on, everybody? I'm back here with Grif. Grifka, what up?
Hey man, this is week 3. It's the dress rehearsal for the regular season. So I'm getting pretty stoked about this game.
Yeah, man, I'm real excited to talk about this one. On our last episode, we just killed the Lions because they looked bad. I said they were terrible. We just didn't have much good to say at all. But I'm a big fan of the Tampa Bay Bucks, actually. A lot of skill players. I like their defense. I think it'll be a good test. I like that we're on national TV and a whole bunch of other things that we'll talk about. So we're going to talk to the Kool-Aid drinkers out there about what to look for, maybe some expectations we hopefully have. And we sure hope that after this game, we'll have a lot better things to say and a lot better handle on this team and what we're heading towards when me and you will be there for Monday Night Football. So let's dive right in, man. What do you think?
This game is pretty big. I think one thing is a lot of people are, it's everybody's saying to us it's preseason, don't worry about it. This team's going to be, good. I know Taylor Decker, after the last, preseason game said the offensive line is going to be fine. It's improving. So I'm really looking forward to the offensive line actually showing me that they can block somebody, open up some holes for some running backs. I would really like to see it. I know TJ Lang, I haven't seen him yet in a preseason game. I know he's one of those, established veterans that's been around for a while, and you always hear those guys don't need a whole lot of prep time. But still, it would be nice to see him in there and get some snaps. More so than, just, regular, practice snaps. Seeing some against some other competition and, where everybody's kind of like trying to win a spot. So they're going 100% as opposed to, in practice where, you guys are trying, but you're facing the same guys. So you know what you're doing. Nobody's like trying to get hurt in practice. So it would be nice to see that whole offensive line together. So I would really like to see that. I don't know if it's going to happen because everything I'm reading right now is like TJ Lang is just going day to day. But I would like to see that offensive line get some snaps together in the preseason. So when they do go into that Monday Night Football game against the Jets, it's not the first time all 5 of them are out there together. Also like to see, Matt Stafford stay upright a little more as well, better than his 2 for 5 numbers against the Giants. Like you said on the last podcast, that last throw, one of those last throws he had, it looks like his arm, got hit and he came off the field, just kind of shaking out his elbow. And he came back in the next series, and Chris Phelan was surprised about it. But, actually see Stafford have some time. And I know the book on Stafford is he's not that good if you get pressure on him quickly. So teams tend to blitz him pretty, a lot. But that's why you need the offensive line there to be a cohesive unit so they know the calls, they know what to look for. So I'm looking forward to that. And, once again, I know we talked about it, maybe less vanilla defense, maybe a little more creativity, but once again, it's preseason. Maybe Matt Patricia's MO is don't show nothing in the preseason. So the defense is just going to go out there, do your standard rush 4, not bring anybody, play a strict man, switch it up to zone every once in a while. So I'm just looking for a better showing, something to give us a little more hope with this being the dress rehearsal than the last 2 games where the defense didn't look very good and the offense looked, pretty bad as well. So I'm not saying they have to go up there and throw 42 points up against Tampa Bay, but at least score some points, give us some hope that this is going to be a different year. So, going into week 1, we're not everybody's saying, same old Lions. So, just hoping to just see a better showing on both sides of the ball is what really I'm looking for.
Well, sounds good, Grifka. You caught me in between bites of pizza there. So a little peek behind the curtain. The people I'm here chowing down while I'm listening to you run that down. But I think you had a bunch of great points there. I mean, we really put a lot of resources in this offensive line in the last couple weeks. Just have not seemed to protect well. The fill-ins for Lang and some other guys that are out there have just been getting rolled over. So I think that will be real important to keep them clean. The other big part about the offensive line is when's the last time we've opened holes in the run game? I mean, I felt like we saw a few glimpses of that in the first game. Excuse me. But I think that really got to see that more consistently, and we'd love to see it in this third game of pushing people around. That's what we're supposed to be able to do now. And I mean, this is year 2 for Ricky Wagner and TJ Lang over there on the right side, and they're highly paid. So I really want to see not just great pass protection, but getting some dog in them and really moving them around. So I think you had a good point there. As far as what I want to see, like from the team in general, I mean, I know injuries are part of the game, but I'd really like to see our starters play a full half, even into the third quarter, because I feel like you don't want to go into that first game of the year not even playing a half of football or coming off a halftime. Just get out there in the second half, a series or two and get them out. But I'd like to see some points put up from the offense. I like to see seen like a very good drive. I felt like this preseason where bing, bam, boom, a couple passes in a row really moved the football and put the ball in the paint, put it in the end zone. So from the offensive side, I really like to see that. The defense, I think this is going to be a test because, we'll talk about it a bit later. Everybody that's listening, if you're a fantasy football fan, we're going to try to hit you with the last little bit of this podcast with a little bit of fantasy football talk and whatnot. But I know I have Mike Evans in some leagues. I really like his talent. Jameis Winston, even though he's went through some off-the-field troubles, I like him as a talent from, just a thrower of the football and just a guy that he's a little bit of a gunslinger, but he can make plays. And Goodwin, one of their receivers, supposed to be real good. So they haven't seen much from their new running game with Ronald Jones and whatnot, but I think that this defense will be tested, and they got to come up big, man. We got to start getting turnovers. We got to start getting pressure on the quarterback. I don't care how you do it. If you have to blitz, if you can get some edge rush, it's a big year for Ziggy. I don't know how many times we're going to talk about it, Grifka, but he's making $17 million. I don't care if it's preseason or week 8. I want to see him pushing that pile forward and getting after the quarterback. I'll take those sacks anywhere I can get them from that guy. So I really think the defense needs to make some turnovers. They need to get off the field on third downs, and they need to have a strong performance as well. And if they could put it together on both sides of the ball, even for the first half when a lot of our starters are out there, I'll feel a lot better going into the beginning of the season than I do right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I know you named a few guys. That Tampa Bay has that you feel strongly about, that they're real talents. Like Mike Evans, same thing. I'm still not sold on Jameis Winston. He seems like he's been around, and it just seems like he gets a lot more pub and hype than from analysts, and then he really doesn't show it on the field to me. So I don't know how good of a quarterback he is. I don't think he's that great myself, but the guy seems to make more headlines off field doing things than he does on the field. But that's neither here nor there as it comes to this game. But once again, I think Tampa Bay's got pretty decent defense. Got some playmakers on there. Jalen McCoy, is there, and Tampa Bay's got some pretty decent linebackers as well. So like you said, just a better showing. I really, like you said, I'd really like to just see that offensive line open up some gaping holes that you can always hear. You can drive a Mack truck through that hole. I'd really like to see that, as opposed to the old mantra is just offensive line needs to open up holes 4 feet wide, but your running back needs to get through a hole a foot wide. So I'm just hoping, like you said,
real quick.
What's up?
Real quick, I want to duck in on you, when you're talking about the holes in the run game. Do you think we'll get a real good look and a better feel for Carry-On here in Game 3? Because I feel like he had flashes in Game 1. I feel like Game 2 I didn't see much. Would you really like to see him out there? Has he already earned time with the first unit when we run out there, those first 2 series with the ones? Should he be the guy back there? And do you think he can really make the strides that we all think and hope that he can?
Yeah, I believe so, because I think, to be honest with you, last game, I think Amir started simply because they're trying to showcase that guy. He had a good game out in Oakland, and then they tried to showcase him against the Giants, and then he obviously, I think he took a step back. But like I said, we all know what Garrett Blunt has. So I think they are. I think Kerryon Johnson, I think he's going to play a lot with the first team to show exactly, what they have. So, Blunt's going to be out there, and Kerryon Johnson, but I'd be very surprised to see if Amir Abdullah's starting again, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think Kerryon's probably, I'm hoping that he gets a lot of carries with that first team to show why everybody was so high on him.
I feel like LeGarrette Blount has had like the most consistent preseason so far, which again isn't saying much, but when he's been out there, I've seen a few runs here or there. I know that he's picked up, I think he got stuffed on a short yardage, but he's picked up a couple, if I remember correctly. And he's just been like decent, which is a good thing, but I already feel like he's been passed by, where first people were like, oh, LeGarrette Blount, he's going to score touchdowns, he's going to help our run game. And now I feel like because people saw glimpses from Kerryon, he's already like second, third down the list, where I think I'd love to see a workhorse back here in Detroit again, a guy that just is out there on all downs, only needs spell when he's, needs a breather, that type of thing. But I think this first year, you paid LeGarrette Blount for a reason. I kind of want to see him have a carved out role and maybe split carries with the young fella to start out. And then if Kerryon just proves to be way better, then you give him the rock 20 times a game. But I'm excited to see what he can do. And it does come down to that O-line. I don't care how good he is. We got to start making holes, and we got to start making it easier for our running backs across the board. So I think that'll be something big to watch in this preseason game.
Yeah, I think, just to touch on LeGarrette Blount's just one of those wily veterans that knows, how to make it through training camp, because this is it's such a grind, the NFL season. So he's not going to go out there and, he's going to try hard. He's going to make sure to prove he deserves a spot on the team. But, like you said, he's made some nice jump cuts simply because, defensive line's been standing in the backfield when he's got the ball. But he has, he's got a few of those first downs. But he's also been stuffed on a few runs as well. But I think he's one of those guys that he knows what to do to make it through preseason so his body lasts the whole season. So I'm not too worried about that. But, saying like he's been passed by, I think maybe that's all it is. He's just, for lack of a better term, he's pacing himself. He knows what it takes, where Kerryon Johnson, he needs to prove himself. So like he needs to go out there and, really prove himself to get to be able to say like, yeah, I deserve splitting time with LeGarrette Blount. And, not to harp on Amir, but I just think, that fumble Amir had last game was just terrible. It's just one of those things where I think it's, if he's not traded, might be that healthy scratch running back if they keep him.
See, I've been the positive guy in Amir on this podcast throughout, saying he's still got some juice and looks athletic, but I'm with you. Like, I don't know what even happened. Like, it felt like a good handoff. He didn't even really make a move or have much pressure. He just like literally put it on the turf. And like, to me, that just showed me there's something missing. Either like this guy doesn't get it, or you can't be counted on like consistently, because I don't see any other mid to top tier running backs put the ball on the ground like that during a year. Like, was barely contacted, and just, it was a total giveaway in our end too. It wasn't even midfield, I don't think. I want to say we were on our 30-yard line or so and giving that ball away. That loses you games. So yeah, he lost a lot of credit with me, but I still think the guy he's made some plays too, and he's still worth, being on the team or being trade bait. But man, you got to protect the football. So real quick, Grifka, since we're talking about Tampa Bay particularly, like what's a good game for Kerryon or for this run game against Tampa Bay? Like throw some numbers at me, or what would tell you like, hey, all right, I feel better about this, or I'm excited about this run game.
In the strict preseason, if it's one of those things where he's splitting time, I'd like to see him get about 15 carries and, maybe somewhere like around 70 yards, 70, 80 yards, something like that, I think would be good for him. A few catches out of the backfield, 2-3 catches, maybe, 15, 20 yards on receiving, something like that. I would be happy with that, especially if he's splitting time. Now,
what I was thinking about the other day is, like, to me, we've heard so much about this stupid haven't had a 100-yard rusher since Reginald Bush and way back in the day. Like, to me, I'd love to see that go away as soon as possible. Like, if it happens against Tampa, if it happens game 1 against the Jets, like, I want somebody to stumble into 100 yards quicker than fast, because I'm just so sick of hearing it. But to me, that's not even a great game in the NFL anymore. Like 100 yards shouldn't be this huge milestone. Like, we got to start putting that behind us. And I'm with you. Like, to me, a touchdown or pushing people around is more important than his yardage. But I agree with you, like 50 to 70 yards, a few catches, kind of some workhorse ability. And if he could get in the end zone, I'd really like it. But it's got to happen. You know, we have to see a lot of signs that not only is the pass protection good, but we spent way too much in this run game to just see it be kind of below average again heading into the season.
Yeah, to just kind of piggyback on your comment about like the running back stats, it's just the game's changed so much now. I mean, it's one of those things. It just seems like running backs just don't get 100 yards anymore. You know, it's just like because you don't have that workhorse back anymore that's out there getting 25, 30 carries a game. You're feeding him the ball. Say like an Eddie George or something like that. Or Emmett Smith or I'm sorry, I'm bringing up old names, but it's just Adrian.
That's what you do. That's your gimmick. But let me break in for a second. Like, I don't agree with you. This is where we kind of have to battle it out again because they are spreading the ball around in the league more. I agree with that point. But there's plenty of running backs out there getting 100, 125, 150, and 2 touchdowns consistently. Like I don't have any numbers in front of me, but you pull up the top 10 running backs in the league, you're going to see their stat sheets say 80, 120, 106, like all these different yard that we don't even, it's like almost we can't believe it or we think it doesn't happen. It happens. It just doesn't happen in Detroit, which is the problem.
Okay. I mean, there's some guys that hit 100 yards, but it just doesn't seem like it happens as much as it used to. Maybe that's one of those things. Like you always have those memories in your mind's eye. It seemed like more guys got 100 yards rushing per game, and now it seems like teams pass more to set up the run as opposed to the other way around, where people run to set up the pass. But I just think that's the way the game is nowadays, and I like I said, I could be wrong. It just seems like you're right. Maybe it's just because it's not happening in Detroit. I think it's not happening out in Kansas City or San Diego or, out in New England or whatever. But it's just maybe it does happen more. It just seems like it just doesn't happen here because that's all you hear. People harping on how the Lions haven't had 100-yard rusher and ever.
So I agree with you on all that. In the running game, we've talked about it a bunch on here. Talk to me a little bit about defense, Grif. Like, we're going into game 3. I really don't feel like I have a sense still. I mean, when I watch, 3-4, 4-3, flexible scheme. Like, we had all that talk before the year. Nothing's really caught my eye about, wow, this is way different or this can be impactful. What's a defense got to do to make you excited or to kind of think, wow, this is going to be a better or an impactful defense? Because I feel like we got to see some things from this team.
In game 3, if they make Jameis Winston look like, Hall of Fame material, I'll be worried about it. Because I know me and you have differed on this. We've talked about this. I don't think Jameis Winston's that good a quarterback. I really don't. Like I said, I think he just gets a lot of hype. He's, simply, I don't know why. We get a high draft pick and people want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I just don't think he's that good a quarterback. So if they make him look like he's, he belongs to have a, bust in Canton, then I'm going to be kind of worried about this defense, even if it's, like I said, it's preseason, it'll turn around. It's just like, come on, we're making like all these slappy quarterbacks look like, they're just eating us alive. And I don't care if they're learning a new scheme. I mean, it's one of those things, you're pros. There's only so many different schemes you can run. There's only so many innovations that can be done. And if you're just making these quarterbacks look awesome, they need to shut them down. Really, they need to like you said, maybe get to the quarterback more. They need to put the fear of God in an offense because it just doesn't seem like they've done that yet on defense. And if they come out flat and Tampa Bay just goes down and scores early and often, I'll be worried.
Yeah, I'm with you on all that. I guess I think, again, we talked on the last show about are they going to show anything, are they not? Like, I think, we need a few splash plays. We need a few things from this team that gets the players excited and gets them feeling, we're going to come out and make life tough for the New York Jets. Because, Grifka, you gotta love the New York Jets on our schedule that first week. I had somebody telling me like, oh, they got some good players, this, that, and like I know they've been building up their defense and whatnot, but I mean, from the offensive side of the ball, even if Sam Darnold or whoever's in there at quarterback, like I don't feel like they have many skill players, if any, that scare me. So, I want them fearing our defense when they come in, and we want to make that real tough on them. So I think, I'm higher on Winston than you are, but I think this will really test our passing game. So Slay, Tease, Nevin Lawson, I heard him in interviews saying how he wanted to play more. He was looking to get out there. So I think they'll be tested this Thursday or Friday night against Tampa Bay. And so I'm curious to see how the secondary holds up. And just want to be solid in the run game. Like, they don't even have to do anything super exciting, but just don't get gashed. I feel like when Jim Caldwell was here, I don't remember too many huge plays in the passing game up over the top that killed us, or huge runs, but I feel like we got nickeled and dimed a lot where we just got worked, in the most crucial parts of the game that cost us. But I'd love to see this like run defense come out on Friday and just, keep the runs to a minimum as far as, not allowing first down. Like when a team gets like a 12-yard carry on first down, it almost like kills your momentum on defense. Whereas if you come out and get a TFL right off the bat, you get all juiced up. Like, I'd like a few plays where they either get the TFL or they just hold up strong in the run game so that they get some confidence, and we just know, hey, we're not going to let people run on us. And then hopefully our corners and safeties are good enough where they're not going to be able to pass on us. I think Patricia said that the other day. He said, like, his first thing is not to have teams run on you. Well, newsflash, the first two games, they've been gashing us in the run game and have killed us in the passing game to running backs. So I think they need to shore up the run game and then know that their defensive backfield is better, where people shouldn't be able to slice and dice us this year based on who we're bringing back and what we've added in the back end.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Once again, if you can stop the run, put them in, behind the chains, on second down, that's the biggest thing. I mean, second and 5, second and 4, that's putting your defense in a tough spot. So if they can stop the run, that'll be huge for the defense. And they like I said, in the last podcast, they did that early in the game, and they had the Giants way behind on third down, third and longs, and just the pass defense. There's no pass rush, and Davis Webb is just slicing up the pass defense, and getting these long first downs. So for as much as say stop the run, I'm to run on you, but when you do get them behind the sticks like that, and you got third and long, third and 8, third and 9, third and 10, you got to be able to get off the field. So, and that's either, like you said, showing some of those unique blitzes, having somebody just, go get the quarterback, doing something. But you just can't let those guys stand back there. And, yeah, that's almost common knowledge, any football fan. You just can't let a quarterback, anybody's good in the pros, just if they can stand back there all day. You can't have your defensive backs cover for, 5 seconds. So,
what have you thought about like penalties? I know that's another thing that over the years has killed us. I don't want to get you on a Grifka rant about how we got cheated or how the penalties always come up and bite us. But ever since Jim Schwartz all the way up through our last few years, it seems like just dumb penalties. And I feel like these first couple of games we've had kind of some stupid penalties or some penalties that have moved chains. Like, what are you thinking? You think we're doing okay there, or do you think that's going to be a bugaboo this year, is just kind of too many penalties again?
I'm thinking right now a lot of those penalties, because I have been watching a lot of those replay games on the NFL Network as well. And it's not just happening to the Lions. It's actually happening to a lot of teams. I think it's just guys, those new guys, those guys are on the fringe trying to make plays to, get something on tape and a good, showing something good where the coach is like, hey, that really stood out. And it just goes against them. So I don't know if it's one of those things when you have more of your core team out there, the penalties will go down. But you're right. Even with Caldwell, it seemed like we were getting penalized a lot, 9, 10 penalties a game. So, and that was with your core guys. And I just don't know if that was the defense, preach and be aggressive and we'll hope we don't get caught. And, like you said, offensive line, getting holding penalties, if it's just technique or them just not being very good. Other than that, it's just I just think it's kind of across the board right now. The preseason, there's just a lot of calls, especially with that new helmet rule lowering the head. And I know the NFL just put out another memo or saying this is how we're going to call it. It's just kind of happening across the board in the preseason, and generally does. I think it's just guys trying to make plays to get tape to show it's like I belong here. But when they get to the regular season, I mean, the Patriots don't get penalized a lot, and if Matt Patricia's trying to mirror that organization and how he coaches, that team is coached, they're going to have to really, tone down on the penalties. I mean, that's going to be huge for this team, man. They can't be, giving up yards that way. So, and I don't think Matt Patricia is going to stand for that. Gosh, he doesn't stand for it in practice where a guy gets a fumble, he's making the guys run a lap. And I know there's probably something in the, the union, with the NFL union saying you can't do that. You can't fine us for making penalties, but it's one of those things where, you just can't. It's if this team's going to be a winner, and that might be one of those things that Ricky Jean's talking about. It's just like stuff like that is what kills your team. It really hurts you in, getting a victory. So this team definitely needs to, it needs to be disciplined and it needs to play aggressive, but it needs to play smart where it's not getting those stupid penalties, because that has hurt us in the past. And I think Matt Patricia is definitely going to have a disciplined team where he's not going to stand for that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like they've cropped up a little more than I'd expect, but I think over the long haul, like you said, he's going to do what I think he's going to be great at, which is, like you said, he's not going to stand for the stupid penalties, but he's smart enough as a human being and as a tactical coach that he also won't kill him for every little penalty too, because stuff happens, like you have to have some common sense that there is going to be penalties in the game, or it might be a bing bang play, hey, okay, we'll live with it. I just think I want to stop seeing those 3rd and 3, our stupid defensive linemen are out there barking and they jump off sides and give them a first down, or, I was trying to time the snap count. I mean, how many times have we seen that over the last 5 years, rather than playing good, sound football, staying on side and making them earn it? I think that's going to be, like I said, the other episode about fundamentals. He's going to coach that, and we will see that better down the road. So that's something to watch. I mean, they should be crisper here in this 3rd game than they have been, tightening up some of those procedural things, penalties, all that type of stuff. I mean, to kind of sum it all up, what I'm looking for in this game on Friday, again, I'd love to see the ones come out either in their first 2 drives and get not just points, because I remember there's been some preseason and whatnot. They'll come out, hit 3 passes, look real good, stall out, field goal. No, I want one of these first 2 drives. I want them move down the field, at least like, a 60-yard drive and score a touchdown. And then, for the rest of the game, I just want this team to look more, I'd say more organized, because I feel like Matt Pat he's really pushing them hard in practice. He isn't giving a bunch of excuses, but I'd like to see him really well organized and really, tightened up on just the basic things that make you look like a really good football team that's on the details, schemed out, ready to go. Hey, you don't need to put us in week 4 because we're ready.
Yeah, Derek, I'm there with you. Once again, just to look clean and like you said, come week 4, we're not expecting to see any of those guys. We're not looking for Stafford or Tate or Marvin Jones or Ziggy or guys like that. Glover. I'm not looking to have those guys have to play in week 4 or preseason game 4. Just to get comfortable. Yeah, if they look comfortable, ready to go come week 1 after this game, that would definitely make me sleep better on this team.
Yeah. Yep. Right there with you, Grif. So, that's pretty much all we got on game 3. Again, preseason, we're sort of reaching here for some things for you guys on the Kool-Aid Cast. We cannot wait for real football. Like I say, me and Grif are just itching. Again, more details coming soon, but for all you Kool-Aid drinkers and Detroit Kool-Aid fans out there that are listening or that are going to pick up this podcast, we are definitely going to be out grilling, hanging out all day. for that Monday night game right in front of Comerica Park. We'll just be out there just doing what me and Grif could do, which is soaking up hopefully a sunny day, grilling out food all day, watching people yelling at any Jets fans that come by, and totally having a blast. So, like I say, more details to come, but we do have some promo cards and some Kool-Aid packets that we'll have on hand if you come and swing by or see our banner. We'll have a little banner out at the tailgate too. So we'd love to meet some people or definitely get the word out about the podcast a little bit more. But Grifka, I think I speak for you when I say, man, we cannot wait for that Monday. Hanging out all day, big football game that night. Probably catch the second game downtown somewhere on that Monday, and then totally both of us are off work on Tuesdays, totally recouping, just hoping to have a total blast.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so looking forward to this.
Definitely. Well, like I say, that pretty much wraps up kind of just what we're looking for in this game. Again, pretty general, but, again, can't wait to react to these games that really count and really break this down for you. We'll definitely have a lot more specifics and more plays and things to talk about when they're playing real football on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and all this great stuff during the Lions season. So, Grivka, you got a couple minutes. We'll talk a little fantasy football and finish this out for the people.
Yeah, I can hang around for a few more minutes.
Well, before we dive into it, people, so here's where we're at. Me, always, since Grifka, who actually, this is funny, I didn't even think about this. Grifka actually, I think, basically introduced me to fantasy football back in the day. I got my first league with Grifka. He thought I was going to be a bum, and I had my little magazine and had no clue what I was doing, but just picking players that I liked, taking Michael Vick number 1.
You had like a Slam magazine, by Scoop Jackson. I'm like, dude, this isn't basketball. What are you doing?
Hey, don't make me pull up the standings. I think I did pretty well, even though I had no clue. But you got me going, and ever since, like, I'm the fantasy football nerd and do it at a super high and crazy level. And you've faded out on me a little bit. We're gonna talk about just some players in general, or what I'm thinking I'm gonna do too is kind of pull up. Let me pull up the Lions schedule here, and maybe we'll kind of walk through some of the fantasy football people that they got to watch out for this year, as we already kind of talked about the schedule. So that first game, Grifka, we're looking at the Jets. So when I think about the Jets and fantasy football, I'm thinking about do they play the rookie or do they not? I say they just run Sam Darnold out there. I think he could be a good fantasy quarterback. Don't even get me and you started on our talk last year where I loved Terrell Pryor, and he was a complete bum. He had a bad ankle, though, and he's back this year for the Jets, and they don't really have much running game. Anybody there for the Jets, or do you see anybody on the Lions really making a fantasy splash there in week 1?
I mean, if I had to, pick somebody from the Jets, it'd be, just that team defense. I mean, they got a decent defense. Yeah. Nobody on offense scares me. The Lions, going into week 1, like I said, they got a pretty good, decent, defense, but still, I think it's one of those defenses where the Lions can pass on them. So I'd be looking for maybe Marvin Jones to have a good game. And I know they're going to try to, feed the ball running. So maybe near the goal line, they get down the goal line, LeGarrette Blount, maybe a touchdown or two, just a couple short touchdowns there. That's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I agree with you. They do have a tough front. That'll be a good test for our O-line, because the Jets do one thing good. They have some good rushers up front. Hopefully we can keep Stafford clean, let him throw it around a little bit. Kind of looking at week 2, so we got San Francisco. Again, to me, that's a West Coast game where the weather should be good. I'd love to sling it around out there, too. I'd love to see my boy Kenny Galladay in one of these first 2 games kind of go off. But, little running backs and explosive backs have sometimes given Lions trouble, so we'll see if Jerick McKinnon can make plays, and Jimmy Garoppolo, will he be able to slice and dice the Lions, or will they be able to hold him off from a fantasy perspective?
I'm really hoping they hold him off, because once again, I'm not really sold on the offensive weapons that the San Francisco 49ers have. So once again, I'm hoping that the Lions team defense comes up big that game, even though you know how I feel about West Coast starts, for East Coast teams going west. And like you said, on offense, once again, it's one of those things, like you said, Kenny G maybe, having a game, one of those games where he has a couple touchdowns. Even Golden Tate, I don't think the 49ers defense is all that good, especially, their depth at cornerback. So having the nickel cornerback out there, I think Golden Tate might have a good game there, and once again near the goal line, might be like say I'm not just trying to pick guys, but once again down near the goal line might be another one of those things where LeGarrette Blount gets it.
Yeah. What's your overall take on Tom Brady from fantasy this year? The guy is 41, I believe. Like, can he still get it done at a super high level? I know we're both kind of general fans as being, Michigan fans, and just, he's obviously been productive his whole career. But is there a fall off coming for this guy, or is he just going to be incredible again?
I mean, you're supposed to be at some point. That's what seems to happen. But Tom Brady makes average wide receivers look good, so now I'm expecting him to have another great year. And I think Belichick, he seems to always own all of his understudies. So I'm thinking that Tom Brady has another good game.
Yeah. Let's jump around here a little bit. Like, our nemesis in the division, all this talk about Aaron Rodgers' contract. Oh, we'll get it done. He's going to ink up long term. Like, Aaron Rodgers is like the top of the top when it comes to fantasy football, even though quarterbacks are devalued a lot of times. Like, does this guy have the skill players outside to do what he normally does, or is he going to feel the loss of some of these receivers? Or he doesn't have many really good playmakers across the board, just a bunch of like wild card young guys, in my opinion. Like, what do you think about the Green Bay playmakers or Aaron Rodgers this year from fantasy?
From everything I've actually read on it, he loves Davante Adams. I don't know how good of wide receiver Davante Adams really is. He seems to I always thought he was kind of average myself, but I know they keep talking about what Jimmy Graham, he's supposed to be the unstoppable force down near in the red zone. So all I can say is Jimmy Graham, he seems to have really fallen off since he left New Orleans, and maybe he has a resurgence since he has a quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Russell Wilson, by any stretch of imagination, is a bad quarterback. Maybe he just didn't fit in that offensive scheme out in Seattle. But everything I keep reading about, Jimmy Graham, is he's supposed to be, this unstoppable force in the red zone. So that might be the guy, and we all know how well the Lions cover tight ends. That might be the guy you have to watch for, when the Lions play the Packers both games.
Yeah, I was about to beat you up on that because Jimmy Graham's had Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and now Aaron Rodgers. Not too bad for three quarterbacks, but he does put the ball in the paint, and like to me, that's going to be a real test, not only for Jimmy Graham but for the Lions, because we've got killed by the tight end, and if there's anybody that's going to kill us, it's going to be a guy like Jimmy Graham, score like 2 or 3 touchdowns, and just have us shaking our head after the game going, why the heck can't we still cover a tight end to save our life? So I think that's a good point by you, but I think these other guys on the outside aren't going to be that explosive. Their running game will kind of be mid-level, so I'm not too worried, but Aaron Rodgers always does make players a lot better. And Grif, kind of how like every fantasy team, there's like that spot at the very bottom of the roster that says IR. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Aaron Rodgers filling in that slot at some point during the year. That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind seeing him there, say the least.
I always love things like, you want to beat this team at its best. I don't care how they beat him as long as they beat him. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care if they have like a peewee team out there. As long as they get the W, I don't care who's playing for them.
Exactly. Like people say, well, you can't root for injuries, but like there's not been one time where a really good player, especially in our division, goes down, and I don't think like, oh man, good for the Lions, or hopefully we can capitalize on that. Like that might sound bad, but it's the honest truth, man. I'm sure they're not crying us a river when some of our top stars are going down. So injuries are part of the game, and they really not only make and break your fantasy team, but can make and break your NFL season too. So that's going to be super important. Again, let's hit on a few other guys. Just looking at the schedule, man, we got Russell Wilson that we got to play. We got Cam Newton. Again, quarterbacks aren't that skilled or highly valued in fantasy football, but like, who are some players maybe from either our division rivals that you think might be real tough to handle this year from fantasy perspective?
Fantasy perspective, our division, Dalvin Cook. I think you
think he'll be fine off the injury.
Yeah, and I think that's just a tough team.
He does look like a beast. I saw a couple of interviews from him, and he has like no doubt in the world that his knee's ready and that he can just be the every down guy. So he does scare me because he looked silky smooth before he went down.
And the guy I would say is the running back was, I think, Tariq Cohen from the Chicago Bears. That's one guy
Mm-hmm.
you'd really want to watch for. Everybody thinks, the Bears suck. Mitch Trubisky, yeah, they got, they got Robinson at wide receiver now, and everybody thinks the Bears are terrible. But those running backs in Chicago, I mean, those are guys you really need to watch for. So, but I think the better of the two is going to be Tariq Cohen. Might be one of those, everybody think, he's a sleeper, but I don't think he's that much of a sleeper. So that would be another running back in the division you really want to watch for. Other teams that they got to play that you, like you said, that you might have to watch for. It sounds stupid, but some guy, I just, was it that? I can't remember his name, the guy from the Cole Beasley. I hate that guy. And for some odd reason, I hate that guy. It's just he's one of those guys. I should love him because he plays hard, he makes the catches, but I think that's why I hate him, because he's one of those guys like, how is this guy on the team? And it seems like guys like that just always kind of like kill the Lions, not to harp on same old Lions, but it's always one of those wide receivers you don't expect to do anything, comes out and has 7 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Seems something like Cole Beasley would do to us. So that's just stupid. We might have to watch for that. And then, another guy you really want to watch for, I know it's not anybody under the radar, but Christian McCaffrey when they play the Panthers, that guy's going to be dangerous this year. I'm thinking that, he's just going to be tough to stop. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people have seen that highlight that NFL Network's been showing in the last game, that last preseason game where he busted off that long touchdown run, and he was running away from guys. And it's not like, he was beating pursuit angles. That guy's just dangerous. That's just another guy when the Lions play him, I don't know how they're going to scheme for him, because I think that guy's just going to have a great year.
Yeah, man, you're bringing up some great names, and the fun part is, we've already talked about in other episodes about, how it's hard to cover in the middle. To me, McCaffrey is such a matchup nightmare for the Lions team. I don't even know who other than, you're going to just have to hope and pray that Reeves-Maben can keep up with him, because I don't see any other linebackers that have any kind of cover skills. I mean, if we have to rely on Kilbrew not only making the team but having to deal with a guy like Christian McCaffrey, we're in trouble. So that's definitely a good name to bring up. What do you think about the crazy Rams team? They blew up last year. They got Todd Gurley. They brought in Brandon Cooks. Those are big names when it comes to fantasy, and they put up good stats the last couple of years. But to me, I'm curious if that team is going to be incredible, or if they're going to be remember that Eagles team probably 5-6 years ago that put all these top people together and they were terrible.
Dream team.
Yeah, and they were garbage. So I mean, I'm leaning towards that the Rams are going to be hard to handle because of their head coach and just all the fantasy talent they have out there for the Lions. But I mean, I'm looking for Todd Gurley to be a beast again. Remember when there was all that talk about him dropping to the Lions, and then they, were picking in the 20s, and then he got snagged up at number 10. It's will his knee be okay? I mean, I knew that guy was an absolute stud, from day one, and then he just had that one down year and everybody quit on him. So I think that's going to be another tough one. Man, Grifko, looking at the schedule, when we're talking fantasy football, I mean, I know we did the season predictions and we're drinking the Kool-Aid and think that our team is going to be putting up some dubs, but we definitely have some offensive players to deal with this year. Not only from the quarterbacks we got to play, but we do have some people on the outside or these little scat backs that are going to be hard to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just, you brought up the Rams. I want to touch base on those guys really quick. Like you said, Todd Gurley, that guy's a beast. Brandon Cooks, he's really good. And, Jared Goff, he's actually done a lot better than what I thought he would. Do I think that team's going to be tough? Yeah, I do. And I know they added a lot of names on defense, but, they got Ndamukong Suh, and they're working the Aaron Donald thing, but everybody's like, they brought in, Peters at defensive back and Aqib Talib at defensive back. I mean, to be honest with you, I think those 2 defensive backs are head cases. It's one of those things you can get in their head, man. They're going to commit some penalties. They did in Denver. They did in Kansas City. I mean, that's one of those things. And this game's at home. I mean, a home crowd, and it's going to be one of those things and I know we harped on it. It's a 1:00 start, West Coast team, and you laugh at me for that stat. But it's one of those things I think, Ndamukong Suh, he's going to want to come in and dominate Detroit. And it's all things Lions fans get mad about. Look at all the penalties. I could see him having a couple dumb penalties that really affects him. It's just like,
Yeah.
and I could see that out of like those defensive backs they got. I could really see that. And so you're right. Yeah, we got to worry about Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley in that game and Jared Goff in that game, but I think you could score some points on that defense as well. So it might be one of those shootout games.
Yeah. Like you say, we've definitely hashed over what we think will happen. Like, tell the people, Grifka, who was the first guy to call you up and say, "Hey, we might want to think about Cooper Kupp. He's a crazy good route runner and can help move the chains for the Lions. You might want to look at him in the second, third round." Who made that call?
I think it was our buddy Chuck actually called. No, I'm just kidding, man. It was you. And I remember I was just like, I don't know about him. He played at Eastern Washington. We all know the skill level. They play on that red field, and it's tough to watch a game there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you were about him. You were all about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be like, he's a guy too, like you said, with the Cole Beasleys, that gives the Lions trouble. This was real precise, hard-working route runners that even if Tease and Nevin are playing good football, like they just don't match up well against those kind of guys because they get worked in open space. Like I feel like those guys can cover those seam balls, but when you got a guy like Cooper Kupp, or I'm trying to look over the roster, like I thought you had a good point about Cohen. Those guys are going to be trouble when it comes both to racking up fantasy points or just being tough to cover. Like, the Lions have okay time with bigger receivers, I feel, but these little quick guys have always just killed us, or the running backs, like you say, that can catch out of the backfield. It's like, man, remember Matt Forte, how he would kill us every year.
Yeah,
he would always catch that 60-yard ball and house it on us.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. He'd catch the ball out in the flat for like 5 yards, and like boom, he would just be gone and bust off a 60-yarder. It's just like, you got to be kidding me. It's just like he did that all the time. And I think one game he actually did it twice. It's just like, gosh, man, somebody cover him.
Exactly. So hopefully we can wrap those up. So, like, without going too much longer, Grifka, I mean, I know you're fading out a little bit on the fantasy football. Like I said, I'm not going to totally nerd out right here and run down everything, but we tried just to tie it in a little bit with the Lions schedule, maybe some players they got to look out for. Like, just again, looking at the schedule, like, I feel this is going to be a down year for Shady McCoy. I don't see him doing what he's done. I'm higher on Dallas. I think we've talked about before. I think Dak Prescott's going to go Matt Stafford this year, where he doesn't have these top receivers per se, but he has a bunch of hardworking, good athletes. So I think he's going to be better than advertised. And the Cardinals, like, I'm curious to see what David Johnson does from a fantasy perspective. I think I only have him in like one of my leagues, but I'm not sold. I feel like he's either going to be really incredible again, or a guy that like had a flash and got everybody excited and then isn't really a top flight NFL back, maybe like that second tier down. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, division is going to be tough, from a fantasy perspective. And just some other names that I've have in a lot of my leagues this year, if people want to look out for them. Like, I've been telling anybody that will listen, I think Joe Mixon will be a top 5, top 8 running back in the whole game after the season's over. Like, I have Kenny Galladay in a few leagues. I feel like if given the chance, this guy could totally blow up and catch a lot of people off guard. I have a lot of lower tier guys like Tyler Lockett for Seattle. I like him as a breakout this year. Devontae Freeman is my guy down in Atlanta. Like, I think everybody forgot how incredible he is because he was a little dinged up last year, and he can bounce back. So those are just some names off the top of my head that I think just thrown out there on the podcast to look out. Guys you can get at good values and guys that could really outperform maybe what people are thinking. So, and in quarterbacks, I love Deshaun Watson. Like, I know he had a small sample set, but I think this guy has every skill you look for in a new age NFL quarterback. He's going to be hard to deal with. Him and DeAndre Hopkins are a crazy combo out there in Houston.
That's good stuff, man. I'll remember that when I go into my draft and I end up taking, some, fourth wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm like, oh, damn, why did I take him? I should have asked Derek first.
Yeah, man. We'll try to sprinkle it in. Like I say, it's something I really enjoy, but with you not being as into it, we'll still try to give the people a little fantasy react from here and there. But we thought, hey, a lot of people are heading into their drafts this weekend, and fantasy football to me has really changed the game, the NFL game. Like, every game to me now is exciting because I got a player either on offense, defense. I started doing these crazy deep leagues now. I'm in a couple 32-team leagues, which you really got to dig for players there, and just makes every NFL game that much more exciting. So hopefully people are having some fun out there. And man, when we're talking Lions, we've got Marvin and Theo and GT and Galladay and Stafford and I'm even looking for Mike Roberts as a deep sleeper at tight end. So we've got skill players when you're just talking offensive fantasy people that to be excited about. So that always makes it fun to watch the games regardless. And hope everybody out there tears it up. You can obviously send us a message at detkoolaid at gmail if you want. I don't know if Grif will get back to you, but I definitely give you some other sleepers and people to look for, but definitely have fun with your fantasy teams this year, and hopefully the Lions will be racking up those points left and right. So Grifka, to close us out, what you got?
Let's hope preseason game 3 is a lot better than the first 2, and everybody keep drinking that Kool-Aid, man. It's going to be a good year.
Definitely drink it in, man, and we definitely want to stay healthy. Again, that's the first thing. I know we've been ragging pretty hard, but stay healthy. Go out there and make a few plays, get out of the game, and let's start getting geared up for the New York Jets. Monday Night Football, opening the season at Ford Field. Are you kidding me? Let's go.
Yeah, hype for this, man. We'll be there. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. So everybody, Kool-Aid Cast, thanks for listening. We'll catch you back here soon with a kind of recap of this game 3. And we won't be talking too much about game 4 of the preseason, but we may dive right into the Jets, start really breaking them down. And, man, when we get to do Kool-Aid Casts on real football and leading up to the games and players being added, injured, traded, this is going to be a great season. So can't wait. Grifka, I know you feel the same. Everybody stay tuned in here with the Detroit Kool-Aid Cast. Hit that subscribe button, tell a friend, and we'll be back at you soon. So we'll check you later.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions. Drink it in, man.